another edition of the ANI podcast with Smita Prakash. Sari in the C-suite. Women's attire has always been a source of debate and discussion. Even in your own homes, everybody will discuss about what a woman anchor is wearing or what a woman politician is wearing. Whether it is a sari, a salwar kameez, the way she conducts herself, the fashion sense that she has. And it's not just in India, even women abroad, even women in some of the most powerful countries are subject to a lot of scrutiny, whether it was Hillary Clinton or whether it's been Kamala Harris. What did they wear? Was it a power suit? Did they exude power? Were they subtle? My guests today are women achievers who have worn a sari at the workplace all their lives. One is a former Indian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom who was even posted in Islamabad and has written a book titled Indian Woman in Islamabad by Ruchi Ghanshyam. My other guest is the former spokesperson of the BJP who made a switch recently to the Shiv Sena and contested the state election from Mumba Devi. Shaina NC failed to win, but she made a mark, as she usually does, with her articulate defense of policies and programs of the BJP-led Mahayuti government in the state and the NDA at the centre. Shaina's father was a very popular sheriff of Bombay, Nana Chudasama. Of course, the conversation is not just about saris and women's attire. It's about women making a mark in professions which used to be considered male bastions. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Shaina. I know Shaina, so I'm going to address her by first name. May I call you Ruchi too?
Of course, you know me so well.
I know you. Like when I was starting out my career, Ruchi was also a young officer, and our careers kind of started out at round about the same time. So I've known Ruchi also, but so apologies to viewers and listeners who might think that I'm being extra familiar with the former High Commissioner of India. But and Shaina I've known ever since she's been in politics. I've known her chacha, I've known her dad.
Yes.
So, but what we have to, I have two women high-end achievers, but I don't want this to become one of those chatty, girly talk, which is very tempting to do when I have friends in the studio with me. I'm going to begin with Ruchi, if that's okay. So for viewers and listeners, this is Ruchi Ghanshyam's book. It is a very easy read. During the holidays, do pick it up, read it. Even if you're not interested in India, Pakistan or foreign policy, still it's a very easy read. You'll be reading about what it means to be an Indian diplomat during a very tumultuous period in our recent past. So, Ruchi, I introduced the show about saying that it's about women in power or women in the C-suite in a sari. You have, ever since I've known you, you've always worn the sari with such grace. Women diplomats, Indian women diplomats always wear saris, sometimes in salwar kameez, bindi, and, like ambassadors of our culture, our tradition, our textiles. So I'm going to begin by asking you about that, why they do that. And then I want to ask about that chapter in your book where you talk about when you were in Islamabad, this curiosity that Indians had about textiles in Islamabad, their suits and the way they wear their dresses, and vice versa, about the Pakistani interest in Indian textiles. So let's begin with how you dress and how Indian diplomats dress.
Well, to start with, when I started working, I didn't know how to wear a sari. And I had to ask my mother. I was young lecturer at that time. It was maybe barely 21 years old. And she helped me the first few days. And every time I would tie it so wrongly that either it would be too tight or it would be too loose. But eventually, when I joined the Foreign Service, we are told right from the beginning, it's a part of the grooming of officers or training of officers, that we should reflect Indian culture. And over the years, I realized that sari is really a integral part of a woman's identity, an Indian woman's identity. When you wear a sari and you go out with your bindi, nobody can mistake you as anyone from anywhere else. A Bangladeshi or a Sri Lankan diplomat may also be wearing a sari, but they don't wear a bindi. A Pakistani woman may look like us, but she doesn't wear a, diplomats, they don't wear a sari. In fact, when I was posted at the permanent mission of India to the UN, the counterpart from Bangladesh, when he came back from his home leave, he brought me a beautiful sari.
Okay.
And I was really surprised because we were friends, but I didn't ask him for the sari. So I asked him, why did you bring a sari for me? He said, in the entire UN, you are the only woman who wears a sari. So I had to bring this back for you. So I've had occasions in Europe, as also in New York, when while crossing the road or walking by the side of the road, people coming from the other side, they just stopped and stood to admire the sari. I think that's the beauty of Indian textile. I think our weavers are genius of the highest order.
Yeah.
Their color schemes, the skill that they have, and it was to showcase that during the London Fashion Week. We did a sari show.
When you were the High Commissioner
When I
there?
was the High Commissioner.
Okay.
So we took out saris from our wardrobes. We hired professional models. We had young fashion designers from India coming, so they helped us. And it was a really successful show.
Yeah.
With saris from different parts of India, starting from Jammu and Kashmir.
But even in the book, you mentioned that when you were posted in Islamabad, you had the India stall.
Yes.
Talk about that incident.
Yes, the Foreign Office, Pakistani Foreign Office, used to have this one-day bazaar where they raised funds for charity. And of course, the Indian High Commission also had its own stall. So, because of the relationship and we had this concept of bag duty. So, the diplomatic bag would be carried by an officer to India, and it would be brought back by hand as well. So I was asked to go on the bag duty before that, and the ladies club, they asked me to buy things for the bazaar.
Ladies Club as in Indian ladies?
The Indian Ladies
Okay.
Club, yeah. The Indian Women's Club, the High Commission also had one. So I came to Delhi and I went to Sarojini Nagar Market to one of the shops, sari shops, and all the ZTV ads that used to show with this sari and this designer print and that designer print, and I picked up a suitcase full of those, and they were sold in half an hour.
Imagine.
They were all sold
This
in half
is the
an hour.
1990s you're talking
Yes,
about. Yeah.
yes. Then
Okay.
subsequently, some of the ladies from
And you, the profits went for charity.
for charity. So the Indian women's stall was able to give a very generous donation to the charity.
And Pakistanis love Indian textiles, especially Banarsi. I think
Yes.
they have this tradition कि शादी के टाइम पे दहेज में या लड़की का जो शादी का outfit होगा, one of the functions it has to be a Banarsi जोड़ा.
Yes, there's a story about that
That
as well.
also, that you brought
yes,
in, yeah.
because Ghanshyam and I were coming to India. I think it must have been on our home leave. And at the Lahore airport, a man approached us, and it was really, we didn't know this person at all. And he just said that his daughter was getting married, and could we bring a Banarsi joda for her? So we didn't know his name, we didn't know who he was. So we just said, but when we come back, how would you know? Then he said, no, I'll find you. So we told him the date on which we were coming back, and we came to Delhi and went to Khan Market to this UP handloom house
And bought-
bought a red Banarsi joda.
Yeah.
And he was so thrilled. He said his daughter would wear it during
And
the
they
wedding.
call it, you've written joda in the
Yes.
book also. They also call it
They
joda.
call it joda. Yeah, those three-piece suit.
Huh.
And he said, Banarsi joda le aiyega.
It's so unique, isn't it?
Yes.
Shaina, your journey also, I mean, your in fashion and then to politics. We'll get to the politics part of it. But you did so much for the Indian sari. For a long time in fashion also industry, you were known as the sari lady. Tell us about that.
I started my career 34 years ago, and a time when I was studying political science and law, and I thought that fashion was just for dumb bimbos. But I didn't realize that I have this talent like magic in my hand where I drape a sari in all of 10 to 12 seconds at max.
You have the record, right?
Yes. And the speed at which it happens, cut, 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 cut. And I never realized that, I had these innovations of mine. So I would drape a sari on a ghagra, a double sari, a triple sari, a sari on jeans, all kinds of innovations. And to think that 6 yards of fabric, you can actually transform the way a woman looks. If she's fat, you make her look voluptuous. If she's thin, you give her body and curvature. So that is possible with just general fabrics, and we don't even need to go into just handlooms. If you just take 6 yards of fabric, the magic you can do with drape and form. And I'm not a conformist. I don't believe that every sari has to have a fall. In fact, I tell my clients that, if you have a border on the base, that acts as a fall. You don't need to have double fabrics. Always wear your pleats ulta, the way you wear it in a Gujarati sari. When you take up the palla, make sure that you have your pleats perfect. That looks like an air hostess. Sometimes it's nice even just to take it one up like the way I've just pinned. So to each his own. I've changed into a sari in an airline cockpit so many times when I'm landing. So I really don't think it's challenging to wear a sari.
And with
It's about
not
your
necessarily a petticoat, you even say
on the pants.
on
Yeah.
pants too. I've seen
With
that.
sneakers through the election campaign, I have campaigned only in a sari with my kids, and it's so comfortable. It's absolutely as to how you choose to.
Did your mom teach you how to wear? Like
No,
Ruchi was saying, no?
strangely, Smita, when I was growing up, I used to see my mother always wore her sari ulta. So if we start like this, she would start like that.
Why?
That was just her
That's her-
novelty.
okay, all right.
And she is a very elegant woman who has championed the cause of artisans, giving embroiderers. She was the original so-called first fashion designer of India. And I used to think that this is some dumb bimbo's job. So I never wanted to venture that way. But at 18, when I was in St. Xavier's College studying political science and law, my mother had the store, the Golden Thimble, which every household, right from the big to the small weddings, would come there. And I was filling in for her, and I, like all others, just tried to make some things, and it all sold so well. So at 18, I saw the color of money, and I loved it. And I said, wow, this is the career. And that's
Who
where
the-
I launched
Who are the top?
Shina NC, the brand. Yeah.
So Shina NC, who wears Shina NC? I know I have one.
Yeah,
So
no. Lots of people who are known, lots who are not known.
Huh.
I don't
But you
want
don't-
to divulge into names, but
Okay.
yeah, everybody.
why? I mean, I would think that most fashion designers like to flaunt names. Why haven't you done that?
I don't think it's just about flaunting. In fact, for me, the biggest challenge is to get that odd figure and that odd looking woman and make her look her best. It's a thrill and a high for me. So even this show that we do for cancer, which I've been doing for over 30 years now, is called Glamour for a Cause, where you get women from various backgrounds, show how the sari can be viewed and worn. So some of my clients would tell me, मेरी बेटी तो सिर्फ cocktail gown पहनना चाहती है. Arey, but you're an Indian. At your specific important functions, shouldn't you be wearing something that belongs to India? So I draped sari as a cocktail gown round the neck. Then we draped a sari like a lungi. And these are just innovations. I've never planned it, but maybe it'll be interesting for your viewers to see the speed at which the drape happens.
And when you make the shift from fashion to politics,
Yeah.
were you taken seriously or were
Not
you
at all. I was totally dismissed. And the first election I fought in 2004 from Bandra West, when I lost that election, they said, "अरे ये तो साड़ी पहनाती है, इसको राजनीति के बारे में क्या पता?"
Who they? Baba Siddiqui was your opponent,
no, but people from my own party then. They dismissed me totally, and they thought that I'm some dumb bimbo who has come from the fashion industry. अरे ये तो साड़ी पहनाती है, ये साड़ी बनाती है. What is wrong in that? I mean, I genuinely, my passion has always been to take the sari to the international platform. And you talked about Bindi, ma'am. I'll tell you something. We don't need to wait for Sherry Blair, Jemima Khan, Liz Hurley to wear a sari. It should be something that the younger generation just totally wants to wear as a style statement. And that's why I used to feel so, and I've spoken very many times about all these stars who go to all these film festivals and they wear all these international designer gowns. I mean, look at the talent in India. The most beautiful saris you can wear, and you can showcase what actually belongs to us.
Ruchi, you were posted in UK. Something Shaina said just sparked that. We've seen Princess Diana and we've seen Jemima wearing the salwar kameez.
kameez.
But till Sherry Blair came, I don't
Yes.
remember anybody wearing a sari,
Theresa
right?
May also
Theresa
wore,
May.
yes.
Yeah, but later, right?
Later.
But from
Later.
the royal family?
No, I also don't think there is anybody.
Anybody,
No,
right? I mean,
no.
even for their India House events and all that.
No. I don't know.
I don't know of anybody who would wear
No.
a sari
But
and come
I
in.
think
The only international designer who really tried to work with the sari was Zandra Rhodes.
Yeah, the first one. You're talking 1980s, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having
it
said
was
that,
a little much.
Yeah.
Not really that, like a Banarsi or.
But you know, the beauty of the 6 yards fabric is that you can cut it, chop it, make it into anything, use it as a drape, use
Yeah,
it
yeah,
as
yeah,
a jacket
absolutely.
later on, and pass it down generation after generation. When you have a constructed silhouette, what can you do with it? You can just wear it the way it is or just alter it a little.
Did you feel that, when you were getting into the foreign service, we'd already had quite a few women, in positions of power? In fact, I think Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was the
First High
the
Commissioner.
first High
UK.
Commissioner, and then you.
Yeah.
There was a long gap, right,
That's
between the
true.
two.
That is true.
She also was always
Yes.
dressed in Indian attire. You also in Indian attire. When you joined the foreign service, did you at any point feel that this is a male bastion and you're getting there? Was there a glass ceiling in the foreign service?
Yes, there were some, though people didn't make it obvious. It's not as if women are not treated well or something. But there were glass ceilings. For instance, until that time, we had not had a woman foreign secretary.
Correct.
There was, barring Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, there was no woman High Commissioner to UK. Some of my colleagues, I was in fact the first woman to be posted to the High Commission in Islamabad.
Because why it's a tough or a.
Well, perhaps because just 3-4 years senior to me, there are women who wanted to go to Islamabad but were kind of discouraged.
Okay.
And not given the assignment. So there were glass ceilings, and the problem with that was that if a woman wanted a tough assignment, she was discouraged or ignored. But because of that, of course, she ended up having easier assignment, and that prompted others to say, see, all women get easy assignments.
Yeah.
So it becomes it was a bit difficult, like Hobson's choice for women, because they couldn't have this, but if they had this, then it was.
But wasn't it a rare incident that both you and your husband get posted to Islamabad, and you both are posted to a country at a time where we've had IC-814, we've had Kargil and nuclear
Yes, a
test.
yes.
I don't think before or after
Yes.
has there been anybody like
No,
that.
I think it was a very tumultuous period. And I mean, we had started saying to each other, okay, so now we've seen everything. There can't be anything. And then there would be something. And at the end of, December 1999, there was a hijacking. So we said, okay, this was left for us to see. So now we are seeing
Seen
this
it all.
Yes.
And in the book also you mentioned these incidents where you have the ISI tailing you everywhere,
Yes.
and that feeling of discomfort.
Yes.
And you know that they're around and there's never privacy, right?
Yeah.
And for a woman, it's all the more difficult.
It
maybe
is
as a
very
woman?
difficult. It is very difficult, especially, to start with, of course, they were non-discriminating. There was no gender discrimination. So I was exposed or given the same treatment that my male colleagues were getting. But I think at some point of time, they perhaps thought that they should try and intimidate because I am a woman. So they posted this very nasty person who would pass personal comments, stand on the gate when I got out of the car to open the gate or took the car inside. Then he'll keep standing there and looking. He would enter shops behind me.
And there's that male gaze.
Ha,
You know
that-
it's a nasty gaze.
and a very knowing gaze,
Yeah.
like he had a very knowing gaze. And at one time, he followed me into an office and along with another person, and I actually got scared because it was past office hours. The building was in darkness. All the offices were closed. There was only one office where my friend was waiting for me, and they came in expressly with the purpose of intimidating me. So that is when I had a meeting with my counterpart, and I just mentioned to him that they had this really nasty person following me, and he said, पर आपकी भी तो बहुत सहेलियां हैं, आप भी तो सब जगह जाती हैं, इधर उधर घूमती हैं. So then I realized what they were trying to do, that they were trying to get under my skin. And so I just blurted out. I said, what do you think? This is going to intimidate me? इंडिया में तो बस में जाती हैं लड़कियां कॉलेज, not like your country where girls are escorted to college.
Yeah.
By people in a car or something. We face these kind of characters while growing up.
Yeah.
So one more person,
We can deal.
Yeah, we can deal with it.
Yeah, Shaina, you contested the election right now in an area which not many women are comfortable just walking, even on non-election times.
Yes,
Tell us about that. It's an area where Hindus are in minority. Before the election, not many people, frankly, knew
that it even existed.
Yeah, and also that your mother is a Bohra Muslim, your father is a Hindu, you're married to a Jain, total secular identity you had. And so how did you navigate politics in an area where women don't come out all that easily?
So you're right, because Mumba Devi is probably the most challenging constituency in all of Maharashtra. And having said that, a very polarized debate. I did try to play the secular card and say that, listen, my mother's a Bohra Muslim, my father's a Rajput from Gujarat, Saurashtra, my husband's a Marwari Jain. But trust me, Smita, that never works. It never works. It doesn't work with either of the vote banks, because they start viewing you as somebody who has come from a privileged background, and what will she do for me? Having said that, I literally fought this election on ground with absolute devoid of any kind of fanfare. I mean, in areas like Kamatipura, where people would probably not even touch somebody, has to get down, hug people, talk to them, speak to them about their problems,
What do you mean
connect
not
with
touch?
women.
Please explain, because
You
for our
know,
foreign viewers and listeners, they may not know.
So there is a certain area in Kamatipura, which is, everyone knows, it's the red light area, which is part of the whole area itself. And people view,
They are outcasts.
they're viewed as outcasts.
Not
and
as in
untouchable.
caste, but
But
out of
outcast as
society.
in untouchable in a particular way. And I wouldn't want to say this in a derogatory way, but it is the harsh
Yeah.
reality. But I actually made it a point to even reach out to them and say that the only way ahead is development. And if you choose development, can we empower? So there are huge issues of housing, health, hygiene. Hygiene, not just of women. I'm talking about hygiene as in a constituency, the filth, the muck, because they know no better. And to get them into the mainstream in every sense, they need to realize that for future generations to come, be it the health and education, health of themselves, their children, education for the future generations. So I tried my level best to reach out to all. The sad reality of Indian politics is eventually it is vote bank politics, and there's certain parties that tend to polarize. A lot of people said that, why? But the answer has to be given by ulemas and fatwas, which actually tell you that if you don't vote for this party, you're an outcast, and people fall into that trap without realizing that the only politics left in this generation is politics of performance. And if you want to perform, you have to perform with a vision plan, which I gave to every single person. I don't hold this against a particular community, but I definitely think they should think about how people try to, brainwash them, treat them only as mere vote banks, And the sad part is if you come to areas like Dongri, Bhendi Bazaar, uh, I think it's sorry. It's a sorry situation because, ma'am, you talked about Pakistan. Let me tell you, when you come to a constituency like this, you feel that Pakistan has developed much more than here.
But you were also, there were very nasty attacks on you.
Yeah.
And you didn't take it lying. You just like
See,
fought
I've
back.
been used to this, Smita, from the time I entered politics. As I told you, when I entered, they said कि ये तो साड़ी पहनाती है, इसको
But
क्या
it
पता
was
है.
worse.
This went on, but
Yeah.
I'm coming to even my 20-year journey where I've had people who have stalked, sent awful messages, messages about, and that phase was really tough because there was a stalker from our own party. And I remember it was Uttar Pradesh election, so I couldn't even speak about it because I didn't want to jeopardize or for the party to think that अरे इसने तो बात किया जब election चालू है. And I remember that we used to receive WhatsApp messages about 1,000 in Hindi, but I wouldn't take it seriously because I thought these are those broadcast messages where people keep sending leaders, etc., etc. And then eventually when I read couple of them, they were so awful, discussing me, my body parts. And I went and I registered a complaint with the cybercrime. I didn't speak to any press about it. My family, of course, has always supported me. So I've been through that
No,
in
wait,
the past.
please explain to me. You knew who was sending it?
It was some karyakarta from the party. And then, of course, the police immediately took action. So I don't fault them.
And the
So
party?
this was long, long back. So
Did
I
they
have
take
gone
action?
through it. That's why I'm saying.
Even
so,
if it was long
even
back, I want to know whether the party did anything.
the party didn't even know because I registered a complaint directly with the cybercrime. This was one karyakarta from Uttar Pradesh who was kind of harassing. And so I've been through
Is he
that.
still in the party?
I have no knowledge. I don't even want to know. But I did what I needed to do, which is to make sure that the police took action.
This happened with Priyanka Chaturvedi also, where she left the party when there was some
Women
kind of...
go through it all the time. And then cut to this election, I fought back. And I fought back publicly. Because moment Arvind Sawant kind of dismissed me and said, oh, wo to imported maal hai, wo kya karegi? Maal means item. And you had the MLA of the constituency standing there and laughing away. I thought that was very down market. Talk to me about my work. Say that if she doesn't have a vision plan, she has no right to stand here. I won't take that personally.
Mal is also commodity which can be bought and sold,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
is the innuendo, which
Yes.
we've all heard
So
this
moment this
past
happened,
in college.
I spoke to our party leadership, Eknath Shinde ji, and I have to give it to Dr. Shrikant Shinde because when I told him that this has been said about me, and it was said on a local local channel. It wasn't
took
even like a
24 hours
national
or 48
people,
hours
for
for it
people
to
to
come up.
realize.
Yeah.
And he immediately supported me and he said, नहीं, आप जाइए, आप एक FIR दर्ज कीजिए. And don't give up till you get. And I actually thought that, if I go to the police station, will they again say I'm doing it for publicity? But it was not. It was clearly my dignity. I mean, you can discuss my political relevance, my political impact, my political vision, but you have no business to call me an item, mal, bakri. It went on and on and on. And cut to when I
Bakri?
went to, no, that was for a colleague of mine from the Shiv Sena, where somebody called her a bakri, who was Sanjay Raut's brother, if you please. When I went to the police station and
Bizarre.
registered this FIR, police was initially no. And then I said, no, I'm not leaving the police station till you register. And Arvind Sawant apologized, cut to Sanjay Raut saying, what was the need for you to apologize? You've said nothing wrong. So that's Indian politics for you. But I think that is a
Why is
time where
imported?
you...
What was the idea to call you imported? Just because from one part of Mumbai you went to another part of Mumbai?
No, but I live in the same constituency. So South Mumbai has 6 assembly segments. Malabar Hill where I live, Kolaba where my father and we work, Bhaikala where we have our NGO, Mumba Devi where we have our NGO, and then you have Sivri and Worli. And all these areas are areas where we have worked tirelessly. So to call me imported mal, I want to ask Arvind Sawant, what does that make Aditya Thackeray? I mean, if he's fighting from Kalanagar in Worli, or somebody else who is fighting from Powai, he himself was from Powai, stood from South Mumbai. And you know, the irony is, Smita, in 2014 and 2019, when he stood for MP, I actually campaigned so much for him. And that time I was his ladki behan. Cut to, when it suits you, you make me imported mal. And what was even more disgusting is that the women leaders across the board, who I have always stood up for whenever there's been, I've spoken, you mentioned Priyanka, I've spoken up for her too.
Yeah.
And there was pin drop silence. Nobody chose to speak.
And also this thing ki publicity kyun de rahe?
Huh.
What? No, this needs to be aired out so that
Yeah.
more publicity means that maybe the next politician who's
Perpetrator.
going to be fighting the election, you will think twice before you make these
Yeah.
kind of derogatory statements.
Yeah.
So publicity is good. It needs to be aired out whenever such comments are made.
Yeah.
So
But I really didn't view it as publicity then. I just viewed it as a perverted male misogynistic mindset. And what was irritating me more was Amin Patel was standing next to him and laughing away, which I don't think is cool.
she's no, Amin, but not
Yeah.
Ami. Okay.
Amin Patel was standing next to Arvind Sawant.
Huh.
And when he said, oh, वो तो imported माल है, हमें original माल चाहिए.
But
ये
this
वो."
kind of comment, even I've heard like Lalu Prasad Yadav saying कि वो हेमा मालिनी के गाल की तरह तुम्हारी सड़कें बना देंगे. These are, or yeah, Parkati, another politician saying Parkati for somebody who has shorter hair. These kind of comments in politics. Why? And this is said on the floor of the house.
To which I ask,
Is there no gender sensitization?
To which I ask, if you want people to be gender sensitive, and ma'am will bear me out, if you don't speak up for what you genuinely believe is right, then this will continue. It will be a one night TV debate, cut to the next one, and in every debate you'll be quoting what everyone else said. But if the misogynist realizes that there can be law taking its course too, and under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, you can register a complaint.
Yeah.
You can go to a police station and make sure that, they take action. I think that's the right approach. And women need to support women, which is the biggest tragedy of all.
Yeah.
I've seen in my political career also, the women are the ones who sometimes don't speak up and don't support,
Yeah.
which is not nice.
Yeah, that's true. Ruchi, when you were High Commissioner in UK, there's this whole thing about Indian women who are like cattle, sent abroad to get married.
Yes.
And then they have no rights. Their passports are taken away. It's a big, big issue. It happens with Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, everybody from South Asia or the Indian subcontinent. These cases come up before the High Commission and they want the High Commissioner to help in this. Now, there's a domestic dispute. How does it go? How do you navigate this?
So in London, we had, because the population of the diaspora is bigger, we had set up a separate cell. And one of our lady officers was in charge of, handling every case that came, that we would try to do our best. There are different ways to deal with it. One of the cases I had, in fact, in my first assignment as High Commissioner. And in that case, we were able to find a solution simply by talking to one of our male officers spoke to the father-in-law
Okay.
of the young girl. And that's how then, we were able to help them find reconciliation. So the different cases, there will be different.
Also, it's like, literally from like rural Punjab, they go to Pakistan, they go to UK. And some of the rules and regulations they impose on these young brides is what they experienced when they were in rural Punjab in the 40s and 50s and things.
Actually, this is something I felt for our people living abroad, that they would have migrated, as you said, 50s or 60s or 40s, and they are living in an India of that time.
Yeah.
So they are not conscious of the fact that India has actually changed a lot.
Yeah.
We've gone women have done things, they have achieved many milestones in life. And the attitudes towards women and girls are also evolving in India, but it's like they have been remained frozen in time.
Huh.
And so they expect the same kind of value system. They impose the same, and which is even more at jarring, where the local culture is very liberal. It's even more jarring. So whatever you can, you do. I mean, there was one positive story that I can remember was a young Indian girl, Sikh, in our embassy in Brussels. So I was head of chancery and head of information, and she was the librarian. So she wanted to be the receptionist, and so I helped her a little bit. But she was bright, and so I used to try and encourage her. And she eventually joined the Belgian Foreign Service.
Okay.
And she's a Belgian diplomat today.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. These success stories really give hope.
Yes.
That, there is a way for. One thing I wanted to ask you was that my interactions with Pakistanis, and it too, they used to ask me, I'm talking about 15 years ago, they would say, आपके politicians जो हैं, why are they so dowdy? Indian women politicians, वो लिपस्टिक भी नहीं डालती हैं, वो अच्छे कपड़े भी नहीं पहनती हैं, वो बैग्स भी उनके डिज़ाइनर नहीं होते, झोले लेके घूमते हैं. And I used to tell them that they are not there representing an India where, and from a constituency, they cannot look all that glamorous, because when they go back to their constituency, they need to look like the people they represent. So that's how it is, but they can't understand, because Pakistani politicians are very, very well turned out, right? Very elitist.
Yeah, it's very
Whereas
elitist.
Indian women politicians were not like that. Did they ask you that too?
Well, even before going to Pakistan, I was at a dinner which was for SAARC delegates. There was some SAARC meeting in India, and I met a Pakistani delegate. I don't remember his name, and I never met him again. And he said that in our country, we believe that Hindus are very kanjoos. They are very stingy. They believe in saving for the future, whereas we believe in spending and living for the present.
And that we are great hosts. देखो हम कितना खाना लगाते हैं और आपके यहाँ तो आप घास फूस खाते हैं.
So when we went, we had of course a very big collection, because we had gone from Belgium. So we had a lot of crystal and porcelain and all that. And so we thought, well, we have to not be found wanting at all.
Even though you're junior diplomats on very small income and very small entertainment allowance.
Absolutely. But we went out, we bought some expensive furniture to display, and nobody could ever, say that again to us, that Hindus are kanjoos.
Yeah. I'll put the same question to you, Shaina, because I asked Ruchi about how the impression about Indian politicians is. I mean, jo Indian diplomats are, they're always like dressed in, handloom textiles, or they're doing that. Women politicians are under stress to look good, but at the same time not look too good, I've been told. So tell me about that.
I think you should be judged on your work, frankly.
True, but
and I hope people use that as a benchmark. But nobody wants to see you shoddy and just, out of your sleep. So if you are in the public glare and if you're well dressed, I think that's a personal prerogative that everyone has the right to carry themselves the way they choose to. Like, for example, for me, a sari is like a dream, because I can, in the middle of the night, even just switch into it and come down and meet somebody. But for somebody else, maybe a kurta is convenient. Sometimes it gets crumpled when you're sitting and engaging with people the whole time. How you project yourself is absolutely a personal
See how Hillary Clinton was
prerogative.
Scrutinized so much about how
But
she dressed.
I think
Kamala Harris also, you're wearing a pantsuit or pantsuit. It became such a big thing during the American
lots
elections.
of people have their own style. Like, for example, if you ask me, I like the way Kiran Bedi dresses. That's her look. I like the way Sushma Swaraj used to dress. That's her look. I like the way Vasundhara Raje wears her chiffons. That's her look. So everyone has their own style statement.
In India, we are less judgmental than in America. I've noticed nobody holds a woman politician nobody criticizes for the way she's dressed. Like at least her electorate doesn't.
Yeah.
And I don't see it even in the media, right? Do you think that, Ruchi?
No, I think women are not, there's not much comment about how
Yeah.
they dress. Whereas now that you were talking about Hillary Clinton and all, I remember a meeting where a German diplomat complained about how Merkel didn't put on makeup and lipstick.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. So even in the West, people actually do.
And she's mostly in blues and
yes. So
uh-huh.
he commented that it's not nice for a woman to not have any color on her face. And I thought, I was at that time when I was talking to him, I wasn't wearing lipstick, and immediately I thought, oh my God, he must be judging
But
me
I
the
think
same
to
way.
each his own. I love makeup. I make no qualms about
But
it.
a
I'll
head of
always have
state
my
and
hair.
government, but how?
That's the only important thing. As if
Yeah.
you
But a male counterpart.
that's yes.
But
He's
even
not
the
a-
men, they've started dressing much better if you've noticed. A lot of them are very
yeah.
conscious. You take our Prime Minister as an example. I mean, I think he's
Yeah.
style
Style
statement in himself.
Yeah.
Not just for the country, but just generally for world over.
I remember when I was in college and Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister,
Yeah.
he had that way of taking his shawl, over that
Yeah,
one
yeah,
shoulder.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was such a fashion statement
Yes.
when he did that. Okay, then everybody, Arun Nehru and,
Yeah.
all the guys.
Amitabh Bachchan.
Amitabh Bachchan.
Also wears
Arun
it the
Jaitley.
same-
And
yeah.
Arun
Back
Jaitley,
in the day,
yeah.
yes,
But
yes.
I
His
don't think
shawls.
Arun Jaitley wore it
No,
like
but he
that.
loved his shawls.
He loved his
Yeah,
shawls.
he wore good shawls.
Yeah, but like say a Mamta Banerjee, she has her style of wearing.
But that's
just,
also a statement. Huh?
that's
a
a statement that she makes.
Yeah, that's a statement.
And people
Yeah.
accept her for that, right?
Yeah.
Now, suppose, think about it, like a woman politician, like say a Smriti was to come in that safed suti sari.
Yeah.
they'd
It
say
wouldn't work.
It won't work.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work. If you take, now since we're talking about
Huh.
you take my party, Eknath Shinde ji has a look.
Huh.
And that will be his look forever.
Okay.
Because he has come as an aspirational, from a rickshaw driver, become the common man's chief minister, and he refuses to change that look. And I think that's a statement. But if you take his son, Shrikant Shinde, Dr. Shrikant Shinde, who's a doctor by profession, he's extremely well dressed, and that's the younger generation's view. So everyone, I think, is judged, frankly, on the way they perform, speak, and deliver. These optics are watched more by the women than the men.
So attire makes a lot of difference in how Indian
But
politicians.
that depends on how the voter is perceiving you. So if the voter perceives one of us, I'm saying any of us, dressing the way, like as you said, like a Mamta Banerjee dresses, it won't work. Because they'll know this is
Did
a put-on
anybody
act.
advise you, Shaina, when you went into a Muslim area that aap salwar kameez pehno,
Yeah.
bindi mat pehno,
Yeah, lots
don't
of
wear
people
your
told me.
Mangal Sutra?
Lots of people told me, and I didn't listen to anyone. I did what I had to do, which was my cotton saris, my Mangal Sutra, my bindi. The way I am, I am.
You knew that politically that might have.
No, I think the harsh reality is that there are certain vote banks that just never vote for particular parties.
Something like what Madhvi Lata had, is it similar?
No, I don't think.
No?
She's hardcore radical. I'm hardcore secular. I genuinely believe in justice to all and appeasement to none. And I think everyone has their own style of politics, which is fair. But एक है तो safe है. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas has been a tagline that I've used on multiple occasions. But actually what worked on ground was Adarnya Mukhyamantri Ladki Behna Yojana.
Yeah.
And if you see the transition, especially of Eknath Shinde ji and the state from Lok Sabha elections to assembly elections, the trajectory that just went up was because of a lot of contribution of the then chief minister too.
We'll come to women empowerment and how women's vote has become has been weaponized in some ways,
Yeah.
So I'll come to that and I'd like your view also, Ruchi, on that. But before that, let's do a snap poll, snap reaction on Indira Gandhi, her as a politician, her attire, her styling, her hair, her manner of speaking. What do you have to say about her? Do you feel that she was she knew about how she was playing everything.
As far as her attire goes, I think stunning. She really created her own personality.
She had Pupul Jaikar also
Yes,
helping. in that.
helping her. As a politician, I would say totally ruthless. If that makes sense. And if this is a quick rapid fire,
Yeah.
then any other questions you have vis-a-vis her, I'm happy to answer.
So, do you think that she made any modification to her style over the years? Like
She didn't need to.
She was always.
She didn't need to. She was actually a natural. And even her biggest critiques can't fault her for her stature in terms of a style statement, but they can criticize her and should criticize her for her ruthless ways.
Because she began as somebody who was seen as a mousy person, because they used to say Gungi Gudiya when she was in parliament. But it didn't take long for her to start being powerful, exuding that power. You know, being powerful.
and
there's some
misusing
people-
it.
Huh.
Smita,
Okay.
add
Okay.
that to it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because with power comes great responsibility. And if you become a megalomaniac, then what's the point?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
the circle of life.
So, Ruchi, your take on her, I want a different take. What I want to know is that in the foreign service, when you have to defend the India story, there could be a politician who's at the helm who might be too powerful, and you may not agree in your personal politics may not be in tune with that. How do you defend the country and the country's policies then?
For me, I always found that if you want to defend something, you have to be able to believe in it. And if there is something that you find difficult to believe in, you have to try and understand it, try and internalize it, and try and agree with it. And it's nobody in the government is trying to bring about policies that are harmful to the country. So you have to try and find out what it is that makes that policy right. If you can't do that, you can't defend it properly, because when people will question, firstly, if you're not sincere about what you're talking, just as you
Yeah.
said, if it's not your style, if you're faking it,
Yeah.
anybody can see that you are faking it. And it's the same thing when you're trying to defend something. If you can't believe in it, you can't defend it.
You know, Ruchi, I want to go back to one incident which Raminder Jassal, former diplomat, he told me that was when India did the nuclear tests. At that time, he was in New York, a job that you have also held, and he said, in fact, he used to always tell me that you're one of the best officers he's worked with.
That's sweet of him.
Yeah. So he said to me that when we did the nuclear blast, the Pakistani diplomats came to him and said, and I'm using this word which you could bleep, and he said, "Sale, तुमने किया क्या है? अब तुमने ये किया तो हमको भी करना पड़ेगा."
Yeah.
And we will learn from you how you're going to defend this, क्योंकि हमको भी defend करना पड़ेगा. And this is at the
Yes.
UN,
Yes.
where they know that they both will come under fire from the bigwigs.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is that you may be a pacifist, but your country has done the nuclear explosion.
Yes.
You have to defend it.
I have defended it many times. And I have always defended it on the grounds that India lives in a very dangerous neighborhood. We have to defend our territory from a neighbor which was a nuclear power, and then from a neighbor which became a nuclear power. Even when they had not tested, we could be very much aware of what their capability was.
So the first time was when she was Prime Minister,
Yes.
and the second time was when...
during her time
a
was
BJP
peaceful.
Yes.
But then, of course, Vajpayee ji decided that, let's come out in the open.
But then we got a nuclear doctrine and a no first use after that.
So I have always defended it that we live in a dangerous nuclear neighborhood. It was already there was already a nuclear power in our neighborhood. There was nuclear proliferation taking place. We knew what Pakistan was up to, and I have tried to explain that in my book.
The book, because the second test happened when you were in Islamabad.
So we have to defend ourselves. There was no two ways about it.
So ये snap reaction तो नहीं होने वाला है. Let me tell our producers. Okay, Indra Nui. when I got the idea of sari in the C-suite, it's because of something that I saw, an excerpt which I saw in the in her Instagram page, or it was somebody else who had put on Indra Nooyi, somebody who's conducted herself with such grace. And in such a powerful position where she talked about being a mom and having to, do the best that you can, juggle that you can. Another woman like you both in a position of power who came from our kind of generation, which said that you can have it all, do it all.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
And not guilt trip yourself.
Yeah.
That's another thing a lot of us
Yes.
keep doing. You keep on, like, I've seen on so many flights, people will come to me and they'll say, selfie le kya? And I say yes. And then after they take the photo, they'll say, आपके बच्चे कितने बड़े हैं? And then the standard question will be, उनको कौन देखभाल करते हैं? उनका क्या है? And it's a nice way of saying, don't you feel guilty about being out there? But it's also the way of saying that I wish I could be like you. So hats off to her, and I hope many more Indira Nooyis.
And Ruchi, you had your kids same time that I had my kids.
know, yes.
And school, college, changing for an Indian diplomat every 3 years, being posted in a different
One place to
country,
another.
to another
Yeah.
country. Tell me the challenges of a woman diplomat who has to manage that also.
Yeah, actually, that is probably something, though I don't feel guilty about, I think my children grew up better.
Yeah, I even feel the same.
Because I was working.
And I feel the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My
because
children
I
do that.
always feel that a happy mother is perhaps the best
mother.
And if I was not working, I wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I felt regret about was this part, that when we moved from one place to another, it was an adjustment for everyone. We had to figure out what to do, what
the
was the
kids.
new place about. You had to understand its politics. You had to start reading the files. You are not familiar with the subject at all. So initially, you end up spending a lot of time in your office. But that's also the time when your children are struggling, because they are going to a new school. They have to make new friends. And young people are not always kind to newcomers. But you are never there. You're never there to help them with that transition, because you are struggling with your own transition. So it is a very difficult time. And I realized one day when we went to Brussels, it was the first time we were working in Europe. So I didn't realize that in Europe, it looks bright even when it's pretty late. So normally in India, you see it's become dark and you
Ghar
start
jao.
time
Winding up.
winding up. You start there. It would be bright. So sometimes we would go home at 10 o'clock because we never realized that it was so late already. So one day the ambassador was looking for us and he called up at 9:30. And my younger son, who was at that time not even 5, he picked up. And the ambassador asked for me and he said, my son told him that my parents are still at the office. And then he told him, वो रोज बहुत late घर आते हैं. And the ambassador told me later that your son complained that you come home very late. So that's when I realized that, here I was trying to figure out my job, trying to spend the time reading the files, and it was so that we landed there and there was this plague epidemic in Surat. So I had to manage the media and how to, because there was a lot of negative coverage for India. So I was so busy with my work. Ghanshyam was so busy with his work, and these poor kids had nobody.
Tell me, with you, did you, like Hillary Clinton has famously said that it needs a village to look after the children, and for a woman professional to be successful, you need help from all over. You need cousins, moms, aunts.
So I didn't, in all honesty, I think the one person who takes care of all the roles is my husband, Manish.
Okay.
And he's been so supportive, despite the fact that he comes from a very conservative Marwari family where women haven't even stepped out and worked, leave alone being in hardcore politics and fashion. But never been insecure that, oh, this is your job, this is my job, etc. And I have 2 children. My daughter Shania is 25. My son Ayan is 18. And look at the difference. My daughter is hardcore from Georgetown School of Foreign Services and wanted me to fight elections. Mama, fight, give back, show that you're talented, show that you have the opportunity to excel and you must. And my son, whilst growing up, used to always say, I hope this Rahul Gandhi wins because then my mama will be at home. So that's the difference between two temperaments.
Okay.
And obviously now he's 18 and he's also at Tufts studying international relations and politics. So now he understands and is more supportive.
Okay.
But if I didn't have this kind of a setup of a nuclear family and I didn't have the guilt tripping, I mean, even my in-laws, have to give it to them. You know, when I entered politics, they don't understand what is all this, kahan ja rahi hai, Delhi kya hai, ye campaign, this, that. Khush hai na, ghar aa jao, bas. Just be happy and come back home. That's it.
Yeah.
And people credit my father and my legacy of my late father, Padma Shri Nana Chudasma, as saying that I may have got the genes from him and my mother Munira, but I think the actual support is my husband. Clearly.
Your husband.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's impossible to do. Impossible.
Okay.
And moment you have an insecure man who cannot comprehend that you're going, you're doing your work and you're coming back, late night meetings, sometimes for a lot of the male politicians, this is an occupational hazard that women have. When we come home at night, that's where our day ends. Their politics starts in the night.
Yeah.
So there are lots of challenges and it is a man's club. So you have to be accepting of that, you know, on a table, you will have a flower pot somewhere, which is one of us. But the hardcore table where they're sitting and discussing is the center table. Unfortunately, to get that space on the center table, that flower pot needs to move from the side to the main frame.
When will that happen?
I'm very hopeful because I have a lot of respect for the Prime Minister. I have to tell you, Smita, I have seen myself when this controversy broke and he spoke up for me publicly in Jharkhand at one of the rallies and said, हमारी बहन जो मुंबा देवी से लड़ रही है, उनके लिए कैसे शब्दों का इस्तेमाल किया गया. He was saying it genuinely and he has acted genuinely in the interest of women. And likewise for Eknath Shinde ji, whether it's the Ladki Behna Yojana. So I think that the sky is the limit in the days to come because moment you have women's reservation, right, wrong or otherwise, we will be in that center table.
It's been so long because
Yeah.
if you see, I mean, for a woman politician, it was always said that unless she has a godfather,
Yeah.
that which means
Yeah.
real, matlab godfather bole to actual
Kind
father,
of, yeah.
not just you know
Yeah,
a father-in-law.
Yeah,
Without that, it's impossible.
very tough. And I've seen it. And actually in the larger parties, it's even tougher. So in a party like BJP, I would say that it's extremely difficult. And I'm glad that the Prime Minister, I mean, Nari Shakti Vandan is something which comes out in multiple ways. Even if you see the welfare schemes which have impacted the lives of women, sanitation, housing, healthcare, the sky's the limit. So
I forgot about snap reaction. Sorry. Let's go to the next one. Okay, Lakshmi Puri. Tell me, Ruchi, what you know? You've been in New York too, and she was there. So explain to me the role of the seniors in, you know, when you reach that pinnacle. How do you help other women diplomats? How does that work?
I think the best the best learning or best teaching that a senior does is simply by showing the best way to be, the best way to perform, the best way to behave, the best way to dress. And I think she's one of the seniors you'll see. Whenever you see her, she looks like she just stepped out of a, a dressing room. She's perfectly turned
And like
out.
you, an author too, right?
And she's she's a brilliant writer as well. So I think all of the seniors in my life, I used to think there are some seniors that you have to learn from and you decide that this is the kind of person that I would like to be when I'm that seniority. But there are others who are negative role models,
Also.
and then you look at them and say, okay, whatever else I may do, but this is something that I will not do.
Which is not allow other women to come up, is it?
not or be generally, condescending or yeah.
But Lakshmi Puri, another similarity with you is that both she and her husband, like both of them in the foreign
Yes.
service, Hardeep Puri, now a minister. You also, your husband was also in the foreign service. Both of you.
That's right.
The challenges being posted in the same area didn't happen very often, right?
Well, to be very fair to the government of India, India is, I think, one of the first countries, perhaps, which did away with this. Women have to resign if they get married. We're way ahead of other Western countries. Not only that, Indian diplomacy has always tried to